Yeah. We don't know.
Got a little diagram here, this little comic here. And what this was, they had a 1D chunk palladium, and they'd been loading, I understand it, for a couple of weeks. And they found that it wasn't doing it. So they dialed down the voltage on there, which changes the electrostatic, and they cut away from it. And anyway, they came in after the weekend to find the water tank had all the water had disappeared. The water tank had blown up. It had gone through the glass, through the formica in the fume hood cupboard or whatever. It went into the concrete, removed a large chunk of concrete,
Huh.
and in the air there was this fine suspension of particulate. And they realized that this far beyond nuclear. And a story that most people know about, whether they heard about cold fusion as it was called, inherent matter nuclear reactions, the mechanism that drives it, they're not aware of the event. And I've had it the wholly described as fairly large to, if you take a fist and you put it in. Now you imagine concrete, it's got maybe some aggregate in there, it's got some cement in there. What can boil all that, damage all that equipment, and turn a lump of concrete, have gone able into a very large, there's a very fine suspension of particles that didn't settle over a long period of time? What is going on that?
Huh.
And so this actually, frankly, scared them. And
Yeah.
they decided that much smaller samples from that point onwards, never really discussed in the public. It took a few years before I ended this story, even when working within the community. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, so that's interesting. And just for a quick recap, because I think I forgot to press the live stream there. So for the people who are watching, Bob was just going over some of his history and the reason why he got involved in science and engineering, going through his extensive background as he grew up, always being interested in engineering, helping out on his farm, his family, etc. And then he was just talking about cold fusion, which I thought it was very amazing what you were just describing there. What I really like to have you explain for our audience, explain it for the layman in terms of what is cold fusion and why is it important for us to understand that, right? Because my audience is the people they really want to understand it in simple purposes. So if you really were to kind of dumb it down for us, for people like myself, how would you describe it? And
I'll dumb it. I'll dumb it. The simplest experience, cold, and is to be fusion going on. The second person to come out with anything the lines of cold fusion, a guy called Francesco Pian. I had the pleasure of visiting him in 2015, his lab in C, and he was in 1989, in August of 1989, conducting a biology experiment. And in that experiment, he had a nickel rod, which he had a mouse brain cell that was alive, was being kept alive by an oxygen-rich environment, having a stimulation from a probe above. Okay, the idea of this was to flush that chamber, start the death of the cell, and then freeze the chemistry a certain amount of time after the cell had started to die, and then analyze the cell. And the idea was to find chemicals that would allow uses of strokes, or when you're up the top of a mountain and you've got oxygen levels, to prevent damage in these scenarios. He was a biologist,
yeah,
right? So Francesco Piente. And what happened was he'd been doing several cycles of these experiments, and it's liquid helium. Now, liquid helium is 4 Kelvin. It's like pretty coldest stuff you can get. Start doing laser cool and the sort of stuff that's used, has been used to create the first condensates of, say, sodium 20 atoms or cesium 133 atoms. And what he did was, this particular time of cycles, he put it in the cooling. What happened was it started to boil. It was boiled 250 watts cryogenic cooling
Hmm.
continuously. And power being provided. What is on? Okay. He knew he had nickel, he had hydrogen before, and electricity going on. This occurred, and that by discovering in a bioelement the nickel hydrogen old fusion system. And in this context, you can understand that it was cold and that something heat that was boiling thing into a boiled state.
Wow.
So this is the best thing I, as an experiment, fusion, but in the cold state. It's obviously not at tens of degrees in a plasma bashing particles together. It is something that is the domain of producing cold matter,
Mm-hmm.
and it is in the domain having hydrogen in there with a catalytic metal as nickel.
Hmm.
Now, most of my ending of this science, about 2009, 2000, yeah, 2020 actually.
Yeah.
But there's probably most of your listeners that coherence could only occur absolute zero.
Hmm.
Why?
That's really cold.
Well, the thing is, and so like basically, for instance, the Bose-Einstein conjunction was predicted a very long time ago by these two characters, Bose and Einstein, and I think it was 1997 that they actually first created of this material best. And this they called it down to near absolute. And at this temperature, say you're using, for instance, a C3, it's still isotope, which means you describe the matter wave. You can describe a wave.
Huh.
It only type of wave. Yeah. But the wave changes its frequency based on its kinetic energy. And this is called the de Broglie, right? Okay. And so what you want to do is bring it down to near absolute zero. You are getting the wave and you are getting into the same wavelength, but it's still out of phase. And that's where you have a substrate. It's like if you have a load of metronomes, people, after a while, they end up, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is like you have a substrate, like your spring, and your rings are sitting on there. They're all got the same wavelength. They come into phase. Then you have the same wavelength and the same phase become coherent, and losing their identity individual atoms and coherent matter wave. Now, what I didn't realize is that this can actually happen at any temperature.
Really?
So there isn't award to Lockheed Martin. Know them? They are manufacturer of peacekeeping equipment, say.
Yeah. Let's call it that.
And so basically what they did, they had a patent in 2013, I think it was 2017. It is the first thing I discussed on which is at remote ICU. And so what this is a produce matter, but note that need is the same at the same temp and in phase. Now, matter can even be electron, except you have to Cooper pair first by having electrons. Okay.
Yeah.
You needed the same energy and in phase. To do that, they use something Aharonov bomb effect. Okay. And then they use microwaves. And the combination of these aspects leads to the production of a Cooper wave of any matter at any temperature.
Really?
So,
wow.
Yes. So this dispels the myth to be at absolute zero. This means you can have fusion occurring at different temperatures, need to have them matter in the same phase, able to form a condensate. So if you are on, you need to get it into a bosonics, and in the case of an electron, to get two electrons, 180 degrees, they got up and down spin with them, form a boson, and then they occupy the same space time and
Yeah.
over again. The Aharonov-Bohm effect is explained by the Penrose theory. And so essentially, we're going, this is Escher staircase, where if you go and you look like you're going, you're not, you're staying in the same point. If you're going up, you're going round, you're staying in the same point. These are called a phase singularity. Singularity is able to get to, and particularly if you go to be in phase. And so what do I mean by in? Well, does anyone know what a laser? Yeah, what is a laser? There is something like the photon, i.e., the same photon energy, same photon wavelength, then it's in phase. So it's the same thing. You're thinking of it as the same thing. And this comes down to really is matter.
Yeah.
And so, what would you say matter is?
Yeah, just energy, but in a different form, right? I mean, E equals mc squared. So that's what I would say is that matter is energy. How close am I? Tell me, correct me if I'm wrong.
Pretty close. They are and you can't get energy out of nothing. Come from something.
Yeah.
So the way I like, a lot of people say that energy and light, energy and matter are changeable, but easy to get from one to the other. Some people will say that matter trapped light. Well, I'll give you an example. Matter is trapped light. Take an electron, and you take a positron, the antimatter of the, okay, to fire them at each other, will annihilate. What you get produces two photons at 500 V going at 180 from each other. What is significant to 511 keV photons? I'll tell you.
Yeah, go ahead.
That is of an electron positron.
Huh.
So it's a conversion of the matter into electromagnetic wave. And so you can actually do maths by taking a gamma wave, firing it into ordinary matter, and it can produce electron and positron pair. So you can do matter synthesis and you can do matter desynthesis. Okay, the electron's probably the easiest example. This is, it's actually used in practical technology like emission tomography. Well, actually, it's because the decay neutron coming out that produces an annihilation event, and you see these photons coming out.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's real technology. Essentially, whole fusion is coherent matter reactions. You're getting matter in a state where they can occupy the same time, and the that does that, in my view, we'll talk about as we move through.
Yeah.
But this is the thing that effectively was created by Pons and Fleischmann when they had singularity. Created, in my view, was ball lightning and microball and itty bitty microball and extremely small ball lightning and ball lightning. They're all quantizations of a stable plasma structure, has at its core toroidal vortex structure.
So let me just ask, I'm going to recap real quick because some of it was breaking up. I just want to make sure my audience can hear what we were discussing because I think that was pretty amazing. You were pretty much describing what cold fusion is, how it comes about. I think some of the main points that I heard there, and I want you to elaborate on anything that I might have missed, is that matter is essentially trapped light. cold fusion can happen at any temperature, which might mean that Bose-Einstein condensate can be formed at different temperatures as well. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but that matter can convert to an electromagnetic wave. And the idea behind going from a fermion to a boson, which is something that has different points in space and time, compared to a boson, which is like a laser beam where we can focus that, as a matter of aligning the waves so that the waves cohere with one another. And then that can cause coherent matter reactions. Is that pretty accurate, or did I miss anything important in there? Because that was pretty awesome.
Essentially, for you create coherent energy, all kinds of things. So there are these aisle systems that use what's called, which is effectively the laser, but using sound, and they are discrepant. Actually, they're not just active, because when the coherent sound comes into it goes into your piezo bone, or your piezoelectrons, or your piezoelectric, and you get what's called conjugation. The sound comes back, and you get the same stuff we produce sonic experiments that does cold fusion in your body. So it actually mashes up your body. It's disgusting that is even allowed to emit it. It should be banned. The case of laser, people understand laser, but there's a maser. And laser is a micro laser. And there's also called phaser, which is essentially a matter wave, right? Beam. So a baser is a design, a Bose condensate laser. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's these different things about dealing with coherent matter, and the look at what is in the Martin patent. And I will probably, that's probably the thing to so people can understand the real thing. And it's sadly, I mean, I'll come to that in a minute.
Okay,
so
yeah, no
essentially,
problem.
we launched this project. What it was it all went quiet. There was an effective disinformation campaign around technology. I have truth in this, but there's a story out there that Stanley gun put to his head when he opened it. It scared him so much that he led the US.
Wow.
I think he's half French, half American. He gave up his American, and he France, and he was funded by Toyota. Worked together for about funded by Toyota in France. Essentially, no one has Stan still alive. Unfortunately, mom died in that. I tried to go to the first con this field in 2000. But write the forward to a book, Fusion in All Its Forms, by Barbarian, who's a lead the against matter nuclear science field. So I understand at the time that they both fled, and they their equipment with whoever they could out the country. I mean, it was a really scenario for them. I don't know how many people knew that I talked about this singularity, where they saw something opinion beyond nuclear matter, ball lightning, in my view. And so there was a campaign to shut them down, and I did interested in this, and there was a very flamboyant guy called Rossi who went public all kinds of things, and he actually reached out to the PN originally to get his opinion until he refused. He went to a new scientist at Bologna University, Joe Ficcardi, and hit in and kind of gave it to what Rossi was doing. Whatever, whether Rossi has something or anything, it's completely irrelevant. What he did was showmanship, and the showman, me, and at least for people to go to the South Korea at the KAIST Material Institute of South Korea. And when we were there, we were looking at all the scientists who were seeing the same kind of products being sized in solid phase fusion systems, liquid phase, and in phase, gas phase. What I'm seeing it across all these different systems, but they had at least 70. And so all trying to win the new Nobels, and like, if you got 70, well, at least 69 wrong, right?
Yeah.
So when you ask cold fusion, it's not quite. And so what was interesting is that if anyone was having a reasonable amount of success, either a pseudo private entity maybe, or a government body would swoop in, invest, and they'd get them spinning till they died. And dying they were. We realized as a the so-called young, we weren't that young, but then a lot of them, in room, we realized that if someone doesn't do something radically different, then these people are going to die with all incredible wealth of knowledge. So we came together, it was formed, and formed the Markman Memorial Project, we at Quantum Heat Dog. This was the original website, mostly an archive site, although there's a project up on there right now called Thor. And essentially, the was is wanting to create a system where we could experiment live on the internet, unredacted data, and that people could guide, inform on the experiment, and the protocol, what equipment was being used, analysis should be conducted, and so on. They would have the live data actually as the experiment's being conducted. They can actually comment and how the experiment should change. We were doing this with equipment that a guy called Ryan Hunt founders made him his data, and it was like for monitoring home systems, and they we can actually show these live data before any of the major acquisition companies could actually do this kind of thing. And we then one person to provide us with an one person did come forward, and that person was called Francesco. He worked for the Italian Nuclear Institute, and a piece of Constantan wire that's nickel and copper, and it was loaded with hydrogen, and he would heat it up and see excess heat, and he'd show amount of excess heat of in excess percent at next week in Texas and conference, and it was a live demonstration. So we set about using some money, and it's funded by submissions from public and from own personal resource people setting up this open, and that early work was funded by Ryan's father, Paul Hunt. So thank you, and all the people that helped this work. And essentially, the claimant, they next wanted to do fusion by increase their excess heat by raising the temperature. And they had a thing called borosilicate glass, and they next wanted fused quartz. Now the borosilicate softens about 300 degrees. Fused quartz can go up to like 700 degrees C. So he thought, well, he wants to do that next, do that now. And did it, and we didn't see any. So we thought, we've done the thing wrong. The first thing is, don't try and change the experiment. We changed the experiment. And I know the experiment was going to do it, but we changed the experiment. So we went to borosilicate glass, and we, at the second time, this was with Matt, another director of the project, started the experiment on past 12 minutes past 12, 12th of the 12th of the 12th, California. Of course, it was started in front anyway. We thought that's not going to go. And 2 days later, I was in the military base in Rome, publicly giving the data.
Yep.
Achieved 12.5%. It would have been better if it was 12%, but not percent. And then I gave my presentation. It's still running. They used the data live at the military presentation room. And after I gave my presentation, I walked out of the room, and I probably about 8 from the room, and I heard fairly sturdy, brisk footsteps running up behind, and on my left shoulder, this Italian general tapped, and he said to me, and he whispered in my ear, he says, "You need to use an alloy metal." And I said, "Well, what do you mean? Like lithium?"
Yeah.
And he said, "I'll," and walked off. Much later, that we that they did use deuterium. You take pure water, like you from a scientific grade, from a supplier, chemical supplier, and you take the head, so that is not H2O, D2O. Okay.
Yeah.
You need to make an electrolyte. You can do the electrolysis, and it turns out, actually through uh, Varian, Pons showed, handed over some of their stock of their electrolyte, which was aluminium deuterium. So lithium in there.
So is lithium the secret then?
Okay.
Is that the secret sauce? Is that the secret ingredient in some of this? Because I know that lithium is one of these
Well,
ingredients we can turn into a Bose-Einstein constant. Go ahead.
So have you heard of Castle Bro?
I have not. I'm pretty new to all this, and I'm trying my best to catch up on the science side. Go ahead.
So Bravo, I think it was the largest ferric test, or the largest nest in, I think, the Pollen Islands. I don't know, like out atoll out in the Pacific. Okay, and it yield 2.5 times expected yield.
Wow.
Now, what happens is you get neutron to lithium 6 forms 2 tritons to heavy hydrogens, and then do more fusion. Because one of the easiest reactions is in the tritium in a nuclear bomb. Okay, so in fact, fusion reactors, they want lithium jacket, and the lithium where the neutrons are caught. And what it has is the lithium itself has a high cross section. What that means is it's good at strong. So one, you stop the neutron, and two, you convert to more tritium, right?
Yeah.
And so what they didn't expect the lithium that's actually playing a role. Okay, and now lithium is most of lithium. So if you don't purify your lithium, I think it's only like 10% at most. I think it's something like that. Is lithium 6 off the top? You can go and look out all these things. Are slightly vague things and things you can look up at Wikipedia. Go and do your homework, Terry.
Yeah.
I could now, but it's not my flow. So
yeah.
The basic thing is that the M7 that's responsible. Now, I have given him presentations that recent years that the research groups in Russia have found that okay, this is a bit of a jump logic here, but clusters are made from, it's complicated to go in, but essentially Tesla's etheric matter stream. And there's a guy called Kurols and Shushkin, and another one called Vladimirovich Dubovik. And he is a electric field, magnetic field, an electric dipole, and magnetic dipole, and these are that are well understood. He discovered part of his thesis working at Dubna, a nuclear research center, near Moscow, in 1965, published in 1967, something called the toroidal element.
Yeah.
And this thing, which shows some imagery in a little while, this up to create structures that have what's called a radiating boundary, and ultimately they are the thing that causes lightning. Anyway,
let me ask you a quick question on that.
What they found is a structure. Go on.
Yeah, so you mentioned ball lightning. First question I have on that real quick is is ball lightning something that can naturally occur, or is it something that we have to produce? And then with the non-radiating boundary, is that the shell of the ball lightning? How would you define that?
So I can show you this from 1902 from Edwards Air Base, which are declassified. View them on this stream where they show this non-boundary and that they have quantum levels, which means this science, you know that the scales at which this, okay, which subfractal scale need to generate the fractal scale, and the skin, it would appear super and superfluid, and we can show experiments where we've had exactly that kind of vision with other material, and when it's state, it can cut through anything. It's like literally like a Star Trek, like totally like a Star Trek. If you built this and someone was something from the outside, it would eat the thing, whatever speed it's traveling, one atom at a time. It would just become part of the ball side.
Huh. Wow.
Done it the other way around, where called Hank Uren has created this in his experiment, and it only cuts on this when it gets up to this, and it like will cut chunks like that.
Wow.
But it does nothing until a particular point. And then another one where this copper tube here, and here in front of me, this one here,
yeah,
which you can see, and was a copper tube on with a piece of iron, this one, and another one below. So Kieran, he operates out, and a ball lightning formed, and it's a hemisphere in this case, yeah. And it cut instantaneous hemispherical section out of pipe.
Wow!
And it's like a flash. You see it, right? And you see the little flower.
Yeah.
There's several things I can offer alternative hypothesis for which you've tried to explain in some discussions. But I need to just round out the angle I was on.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Is if you are able to get this out of print book, The Secrets of War Technology, Project Harp Bound by Jerry Vasilatov, he talks about how Nikola Tesla, when he was doing his unidirectional disruptive discharge, he would feel these pricks in his, and these are similar to those observed by people who have been close to natural ball lightning. He would go back 15 feet from device and still get these pinpricks. He erect a glass sheet, he would still get the pinpricks. Would then erect a copper and still get the pinpricks. He only found that he didn't get the pinprick if he was using magnesium, beryllium, or aluminium. Anything heavier, and he wanted to get these pinpricks. And all these pinpricks, the result of the dirty matter streams. These are toroidal clusters of something that's inside matter. Okay, they call it energy within matter. There was a declassified 92 document on his website. It was declassified in 2017. Something like, oh god, I can't remember offhand. Journey to Alpha Sphere or something like that. And it was about extracting enough energy from lower iron with a tech that would also provide the propulsion to get to Alpha in 6 years from that is extracted from 1 kilo. And the action technology is the propulsion. And by the way, document, bearing in mind this 92, they say it is the same technology called fusion.
Wow.
They literally say it, right? So what Karol, Dubovik, and Shishkin have established is that for hydrogen isotopes, it's 2 to 4 times easier to get this etheric matter that Tesla that for any other element beyond lithium. which
Yeah.
implies you can create the thing from lithium.
Wow.
Is a similar ease.
So, huh.
Um, this is more interesting than just creating coherent matter from an alkaline metal. This is creating something that is subatomic, and it's a cluster of what's called ground neutrinos.
Yeah.
Ground neutrinos is of more than like 2.5 mass of all of the plasma planets. Like if you take our solar, 99.8% of our solar system is the sun. The rest
Yep.
of it is just flecks of dust around that.
Yeah.
and
Just dust. Yeah.
we're a small speck of dust.
Yeah.
Right? We might think we're big in it, but we're not. Right? And you compare our sun to Beetlejuice, it's not
Yeah.
even registering on the. It's a speck of dust
Yeah.
around it. So, and you add up all stars in all galaxies, in all of the universe, and there's still 12 times more of this stuff. And you know, it's all at 2.6 Kelvin. It's all stuff with this length. It exactly the structure. It's a coherent condensate through the entire universe. It's one wave function everywhere, all in time.
Hmm.
And this is what the toroid can capture because it has the ability. So it's neutrinos. They are able to interact with two things: weak force and gravity.
Yeah.
Weak force and these things cut through. So I can go take you through a few slides, take you through a
Please do.
few presentations, but I believe the simple segment in this, using only of John Wheeler,
Yeah.
the inventor of the term black and of wormhole, can use just the clip from him. But I've already told you to what you see. Now the question is, get interested in that video. Well,
Yeah.
in January 20, I was asked to be interviewed by Ross as part of his work, try and work out what was going between these very so-called disclosures.
Yeah.
And I described to him as probably the third person in my life that I've ever done something that occurred to me, my siblings, in 1979. I was standing, I was just in the house, and my daughter's all down into our lounge, and this was at 32 Washington Gardens, Worthing, West Sussex, UK. You can go and look at it on Google Maps, right? 2 Washington Gardens, Worthing, West Sussex, UK. And out of the back of our lounge, there's a big French, and he just told us into the sky. It was a late evening I think it's 1979. I think I was 7 years old. I might be wrong. We play tricks with you sometimes, but that's where I think it is. And what happened? 4 lights went.
Wow.
Said, "Right, kids, you can go to bed." And I thought, but I don't even know what I can see. I didn't think of anything other than showing us something in the sky. And that's nice, right? And I didn't think about it. And one of the sponsors of a guy from Sweden, kept telling me to go and see the Serious Disclosure Project. And I thought, oh, okay, he's into UFOs. And all right. Finally, I read a couple of years of him trying to get me to look. And I looked at it. Oh, right, that makes sense. All right, well, what my dad was showing me. And so I met him in Prague, and I told that was the person I told. Like, I think it was maybe one other person. Then like but when you started, what it was Matthew Vallat, who conducted that first experiment on the Francesco Celano fusion, Nick Copper system. He contacted me a number of weeks ago. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I go, oh, I know what that is.
Yeah.
And I've only recently, like in the last couple of months, realized that due in the line that is Shaw Airfield, which is oldest custom built airport in the world running. Okay,
Okay.
that was laid for the Wright brother band, but this is the oldest one.
Yeah.
And so my father had good contacts with the Navy. I know this for reasons and because of what he did. And he was always senior mason and very good, and so was his father above. And so I don't know whether put on because of his Navy contacts, or was it because his association with. But this was 1970, right? And they looked exactly those spheres
Wow.
that are running around that plane. So I don't think this is a logic, and I can show you that will show or imply very strongly not new technology. And I'll show you them in a minute
So it's
to
been
see
around for a
them.
while. Quick question on that before we dig into that. So, how did that? You just told me about your sighting that you had, right? Did that change you, or did that? How did that change you when you saw that, and did it change how you approach science? Did it make you more interested in it? I'm just curious as your thoughts.
I actually no thoughts about it. You know what? I didn't think about it all until after I saw the series.
Yeah, that's
Because,
interesting.
well, hold on, like because the point was the Hessdalen lights. Hessdalen lights were um, they're in this valley, Hessdalen in Norway. There's there's a couple of metals that are mined in that place, and it's got quartz, and it goes large temperature changes. And there's this sulfur that runs through the center. So you've got a big freaking battery there, with electricity. And some people have claimed these things. They're certainly unidentified aerial phenomenon,
Hmm.
UFOs, as we might have called today, um, are free floating of some type or
Yeah.
ball. They're essentially ball lightning. Walk through how what we observed and can repeat in experiments are the same. They're just bigger, right? The
Yeah.
quantization of this is on that called Earth lights and stuff. And so
Yeah.
there's a lot of the community. So I was already around the periphery of ball and literally had not thought about it. And then I saw the seriousness, and I thought, well, better start because I could realize that a lot of things were natural phenomena, and you could man make. And
Yeah.
I'd already, I know my dad freaking alien.
Yeah.
He's not an alien,
Yeah.
so so it can only be a fear making. And since I've deduced that it's from an air base, um, maybe it's an early version of this defense system. Or maybe it was just showing, oh look, we can plasma balls and we can control them. And the idea that you're moving and you're changing direction that's because they're not a physical object. No one inside them.
Yeah.
If you know how to get a laser pointer and you can move it around quickly in the sky. Well, imagine got some phase conjugation and you've got some interferometry between electromagnetic waves, and so you've got a cross point, and on that node, you could move as fast as you could move these things were relatively easy to control. It's like chasing a laser cat.
Huh. So, question on that, on
So
the change, on it moving around. So, and this kind of digs into the videos a little bit, but what I wanted to first thing is, how do you think you would control that moving around? My approach would be that that would be some type of remote control functionality that you would use, but do you have any thoughts on that?
so firstly, the movement you see in that video,
Hmm.
they are relatively trivial in to early 1990 animation software. I was the trainer of official new tech lightweight trainer of the UK in the 19s, right? Along with my business time. And with the software, you can create those mode easily, right?
Yeah.
Second thing is why three? Why three? Well,
Yeah.
two is geometry. If you have two like this, you can't make a plane. I mean a plane, not as in a plane, get on it and go to. I mean a plane as in a paper, you
Yeah.
know. But you only define a line. You have three like that, define a plane. And that means know what the normal of the plane is, right? And you need technology to have central azimuth through the central 20 degrees perpendicular plane. So it needs to come out there. It needs to be in the perpendicular to the plane that's
Huh.
created by the things. And you'll see when it comes to its final position, which is in, and they rotate around their gravitational and with Wheeler's words, and it will be simple, very simple.
Hmm.
But you see them now. You show a picture of a charged rod with water moving around it in static electricity in zero gravity or on your thing. So that's what happens, right? Whatever. It's happening because it's matter. They need to get those equidistant between them. And to a degree, they will self-organize because they repel each other as well as attract each other. Okay.
Huh.
Then they need to be aligned in the Smith. And then I will, using Wheeler in a little while, once some principle cotton. Now, the moving them around, you synthesize them largely using the Lockheed pattern. You need to create a lot of matter, and when you put it in their pattern, in drawing 3, they show a blank structure of a coherent matter. It literally is a bug. And this is the structure that we experiment. It makes these kind of like carbon nanotube type, buckyball type impressions and an arrangement of the matter around it in the brass samples that we produce, right? And so I've been saying for years, like it forms these tubes and these spheres and stuff have a 5-sided sections with branches coming off, and they are effectively, because they're a superfluid of electrons, they at least that's how you initiate. They can form this particular structure on the out, and then ground by effective moments and interferometry, which is acting electromagnetic waves, probably with what's called phase conjugation, which is where you have a wave and another wave 180 degrees out of phase, and that produces nodes which are effect scalar. And we discussed on Bearden in his 1990s work and stuff, and this is Third Lance, one of his late books. Okay. So most of the stuff is in that you need to understand. So if bring up the paper, Lockheed Martin, to my blog. So
Yeah.
you can go to my blog at Remote View to You, and you can type in probably, and you can go.
Feel free to share that in your chat, and I can copy it over as well.
Well, yeah. So like I can just pull it up here.
Oh yeah,
You
sure.
don't know what.
And real quick, while you're doing that, I wanted to ask that is the azimuth the area, the kind of the surrounding of the sphere that they create with the 3 points, or how would you describe the azimuth? I was just pulling up a picture.
I'll in 3D.
Yeah, thank you.
So give me a second. I'll share my.
Awesome.
So I'm going to have you down here. Sorry, guys.
I think you should have permission to share.
And I'm going to share my. Okay, share screen. Okay. So can you see that? I can't see that yet. Let's do that here.
There we go.
Right. See that?
Oh yeah. Okay. Now we're cooking. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
So you can see the center of this cone here. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm pointing at.
Yep.
Can you see that?
Yep.
Right.
I can see it.
That is the point of singularity. Yep. That is where electrons will come down this spiral and because repel each other. They're 180 degrees out of phase point. They've got no space. They have to become coherent. And this is the point of the Hofbomb effect. Okay.
Okay.
This was talked about by Eric Weinstein and Hal Puthoff in January or February 2022 in a presentation that's available on YouTube. And they talk about this Penrose stair diagram that I used, 2.5 bomb effect, and then and the fact that that is allow us to break changes epsilon zero. So the light speed and the physical vacuum charge, it changes the dielectric constant physical vacuum, and this allows to change time in here and change the speed of light, go faster than light with the extra change. And they this, and then Hal put off by saying, "Oh yes, and you can go than that. There are all kinds of trajectories that you can blah 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 about the communication technology." But anyway, so there's this, see this little ball at the back here. That is the disruption zone, and the gravitational wave comes here all through from this point on here and out through the top. Okay? Now, 3D light wave here. There we go. So I can actually spin this puppy around here, and you can see our three substructures, which are exactly the same as the key large structure. So this is what you need to produce. And when they get this, they will create the all above. And so each of the cones has a gravitational wave that comes through. And when you are running ordinarily, and this pole, so it's a topological model. I will show you that with the Photoshop here.
Yeah. So each of those rings, each of those donuts in there would represent potentially an orb that we would be seeing visually?
Yes, each one of those will have there will be the sphere, and then when they join the gravitational waves together, they make a line at the quantization level above, and they snap to quantization level. Okay.
Wow.
So here, I can show you with this. In fact, I'm going to bring up the paper. So I'm making it up. This is observational poles in a synthetic magnetic field.
Nice.
And this is by a bunch of people, M.W. Ray, and this was published in Nature. Okay, so this is what I mean, synthetic monopole. You structure here. You have they end up looking bogs, and it's anyway. You can read, but here's their paper, and I'm going to show this diagram with the model that we derived. What we derived was from only, no maths, no preconceptions, whatever. We just looked at what nature was doing under a microscope, and I kept drawing pictures that would fit until it fitted everything. and it ended up being this thing that is just a thing of great beauty. So what we have here on the side is a comparison between experiment, everything that looks beautiful and clear, and fuzzy rather, and simulation looks really clear. It says experimental simulated condensate parts. So these are Bose-Einstein densities with a monopole near the center of the condensate. Comparison on the vertical axis are shown in rows A and B, and E. I think A and B. This is along the vertical axis, and those along the horizontal are shown in rows C. Okay, depends what your perspective is, but anyway, so is essentially what these produce, and if you here, not there, not there. I'll get it. Yeah, okay. So I showed this is a university. It's the same. So you have your spin down and spin, okay? And this is the bit that glows inside there, right?
Yeah.
The spin change. And coming into the bottom is monopole. It's a topological monopole. It's not all, but it acts like a monopole to a degree. The Russians have done rounds where they show these things creating birdie structure on it when they're generated. And you can do them, by the way, by taking and spinning the cone very far and these monopoles, by the way. And if you get four cones and point them to the center, you end up them aggregating, and it looks like a particular pattern, doesn't it? Okay. So yeah, you can apply this O structure here, and you'll see this is from the side. This is from the top, and if I on the geometry, that is what's going on, and it is the cone bit coming in. So this is what you see in these images, in my view, in my hypothesis. Now the interesting is their mathematical prediction. This is what the Bose-Einstein condensate like. And can you see the S?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It's a little S in there.
And it's there. The S is there because it's actually got the subfraction.
That's interesting.
That produces the.
That shape is very interesting.
It's a wheel within a wheel within a wheel.
So is the monopole faced in the opposite direction of where the heat signature is with that, I would almost call it that half circle shape that we see that you were showing a second ago? The monopole is then, in that one there. So where's the monopole there? The monopole's the part facing down right there, or what?
The monopole, if you look, I've got this. So this is the spin, middle spin, down. This is above overall structures. You can see there.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the non-radiating bound sphere that you see, and it follows a gravitational beam through the center. Okay. It happens with charged particles. They come in and they stop your singularity here. Okay. And that power these things once you made power themselves. They are monopole. They don't need their energy. You can put more energy to them.
Yeah.
They're quite stable, right? So it can last for days.
How would you, so in terms of going into the videos and what we've seen in the videos with these orbs moving around, how would you define the direction of travel while looking at your 3D, your model here? How would you determine the direction of travel exactly? Where and what would you expect it to be based on what we're looking at from this visualization?
So okay, let me
do that. If you have the videos, you can pull them up on your side too. I was overlaying it on my side, but you can't see. Go ahead.
Those have seen them, and I'm talking about. So essentially, these have a beam that comes out the back further. Okay. And I'll have to. How am I going to do this? I'm going to have to change my layers here so you can see. I've got this three for one here, and then break it down so you can see the substance here. So I'm going to take that's the main tour there.
Oh yeah, nice.
The lemon, the apple. So here.
Oh.
So I've got the subtour structure, and subtours are only made of two. Okay. Now what happens is, where this disruption field interacts with the tour above, you actually have a leak, and the leak is reduced. So in reproduction vehicle, they have 40 is the maximum number you can have, and this is in just ancient stuff. But anyway, oh dear, oh god. Yeah. So the point is that you have this. Show it by showing the I'm going to turn it off, and I'll do the normal, and they have this disruption beams out. Okay.
Yeah. So it almost look like perpendicular to the
level of
the torus, right? Or am I mistaken?
You'll see it in a minute.
Okay.
So you can see here. This is only for two tours. Like I say, you can't use two practically. You have to use three. Four is pointless.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't need any three to define. So the plane can actually be when this part. So you cannot change where the plane's got to. The plane's got to be from here, in the center of this is Vesica Pisces, the fish bladder. It's the geometry. The plane has it between this point here. Okay. the plane has to fit zone, all right,
Yeah.
and then it can be acted upon. Within this, sorry, anything in this overall bubble, epsilon and mu is changed. Its permittivity of the vacuum, zero rather, is changed. The permit of the vacuum, and so the speed of light and time and electric field properties will change inside this, and it's detailed in a paper by one Kenneth Radford Schultz from 2000, and the document is called Permittivity Transitions. Permittivity Kenneth Radford Shoulders demonstrated and showed that all sparks have a ball lightning equals a charge cluster, called an exotic vacuum object, as a leader. That does whether it's a spark coming out of or the that ionizes from the low potential to the high potential between a cloud to ground, ground to cloud to cloud lightning charge. Okay, he's got a ball lightning that does a charge cluster that does ionization channel first, and you can see this on extremely high speed footage of lightning. And these things will get excited and they lit up and produce your lightning branches, but it's only one that will be the higher. And so it doesn't matter whether you've got three. So I think what I need to do is go through a couple of papers which to note down and you'll need to read.
Yeah, please.
To speed on.
Yeah.
So essentially, this is a topological monopole, and we create them, and we do that. So
interesting.
The first one. Oh no! Before this, I need to show you.
No, yeah.
To show you something else. So, okay. Right. So.
Oh wow! Look at this.
Okay. So.
Okay.
All right, I do this here, and I do it as present to view, and then I can see you. Can you see that?
Yeah, yep. I remember I was looking at this, I think, when you did your presentation a few weeks ago.
Okay.
So yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Basically, this is 23. If you have 24 half of a circle, that's 48. That is what I observed by looking at this particular sample. Hutchison in 2020 was synthesized in 2007. So on here, I found several quantum levels on there. Use a cheap microscope.
Okay.
Do not care about electric fields. This is a high magnetic electric field in here experiment. These are actually kind of thing. These little plasma balls need to be luminous to this level. You can see a luminous one up here. Okay, you can see an almost unluminous one here. Okay, but these ones are luminous. So you can have ranges of luminosity on the outside. They produce this matter wave here, and it's orbiting around each other. So we see three, and sometimes this is effectively the same you're seeing, but already in next quanta up that you're seeing going on the plane in my. So it comes out of Bostic's work. It was charged in 1948 to make a fusion that was practical of the thermonuclear, and he worked on Project Sherwood as part of the atomic engine, and he worked at Los Alamos, Princeton University, and he shot toroids. Okay, this is titanium, and he does a discharge 10 times, incredibly small amount. It produces a plasma which has a current going through it, which reforms a torus.
Wow.
It gets passed over a McGill, and it's a tori of tori. That is the structure. It's the basic structure. And is talking about non-radiating energy. People can look at these peer reviewers in Nature Materials, and you can upload the book EV: A Tale of Discovery, which is 5 years after Ken Shoulders. So who's Ken Shoulders? Ken Shoulders is the guy that was brought, in my view, by the CIA to investigate John Hutchison from 1979. So he came in 82, 5 years later, published. He was awarded, go and look at them. The way he creates these objects is the same that Lockheed Martin create without crediting Kench, their 2013 patent, right?
Yeah.
Go figure. And it says here, these can be thought of as longitudinal waves in the back, hardly undetectable by standard electric detecting means, but are readily accessible on a pole world. This is 90. There appears to be an incredible useful phenomena yet to arrive using potential effects that are not accessible to electromagnetic field. This is very scalar potential. What have these structures? The smaller one, this is an anapole. It was 1954 by Elder. Okay, you have tidal currents here, which a magnetic field going around. These poloid currents, they oscillate, and you have an electric oscillating field. This is the most simple one, and the fields cancel it, and you only get the vector and scalar potential side. Okay, so these quantize, and they are contained structures. If you pump energy into here, you can keep pumping energy into here until all forms of matter will decay. Now, you don't need, when you have a fractal toroidal structure published in a 2017 paper in a major peer-reviewed journal, do not need these oscillating, it will self-organize into a radiating structure. Okay? This is in Nature Metals, and it's describing the same thing as was described by Ken Shoulders 30 years previously. So do you think they didn't do anything? Shoulders doing these patterns, no,
years,
I think they did a lot.
Interesting. Quick question on that.
Here's a third order structure.
Oh yeah, keep going. Sorry,
what?
No, you can keep going. I have a question after you're kind of done with this part, because I think it's very interesting. It goes back to what you were showing, maybe what you're showing here, where you talked about decaying matter. And this kind of goes back to the videos, if you want to address it, is that I remember I was watching your presentation a couple weeks ago, and one thing that I thought was interesting is you said there's two possibilities, is that this is either some type of teleportation or some type of annihilation event. And early on, I was all about thinking there was an annihilation event, but I ruled that out because I thought, well, since E equals mc squared, this mass has to go somewhere. Our zap must have been a lot larger if it was an annihilation event.
Okay.
I'm wondering, can you kind of correct my understanding of that, or help me understand that a little bit better?
Okay, so yeah, I think it asked the question, so let's address that now.
Yeah.
One, when this matter is condensing, it releases killer electron volt photons. They are thermal photons, right?
Yeah.
And so you see them in IR, but the end dissipated. If you point where you get unification of the force, and so if you go and look at a pattern from Mikhail Solin, which was in the SSR, actually not Soviet republics, so it's 1992.
Okay.
For his incoherent nuclear reactor, he fires an electron beam to a low metal, and it forms these solitons of opposite charges that form clusters, spheres, or tubes, and there you get unification of the force and decay of baryons. Baryons, that's a neutron or proton, and the baryons can decay into leptons. What do I mean by that? I know what light is, but light doesn't necessarily be thermal. It can be gamma rays, X-rays, it can be extra low frequency rays, of which you can see in visual, but if you have X-rays coming out, they will scare molecules around it, will produce photons in the spectrum, which are still not thermal. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and leptons can be either uncharged leptons, charged lepton, an electron, a muon, or a tau, or the uncharged electron neutrino, muon neutrino, or tau neutrino. You can have a vast amount of energy released without any explosion.
Really?
Because it's an implosion event, releases what the call field forms of matter. Another example.
Okay.
There's a guy, Mahadevan Srinivasan. He worked at the Babraton Research Center. About 20 years ago, he was given data from a electric arc furnace in India. It had three, something like meter wide graphite electrodes, something like 11 mega going in. So you got three, it's three. Anyway, there's three of going into what's called a Federican furnace. And what they were chucking in was scrap iron, sand, and coke, like charcoal. And what they got out was silicon and ferrosilicon alloy. What they found was it's a continuous stop this because stop it, everything's set solid. You have to keep it going. 11 weeks they produced 3 tons of silicon and 1 ton of excess iron per for 11 weeks. And if you it's something like 300 tons, which is the mean weight of an A300 or an A300. It is the bigger one, right? And you know what? There are massive hole in the middle here. And where's the silicon coming from? Well, if you take carbon and oxygen and you fuse that up with silicon.
Yeah.
12, 6, 28, right? So they were using intense energy, which will, whether you like it or not, it will these vortical flows. If you've got electrodes in there, it's going to do some stuff. Like this one's going to spin around here because you've got an electric arc, and then you've got a magnetic field spinning around. There's going to be spinning here and spinning here. It's creating these same things because you've got hydrodynamic shear. When I say that, the fluid of the metals, which all got in a plasma kind of state because the electrons are not associated with any particular nuclei, you're going to get these structures forming. So it's unsurprising. So you don't have necessarily a nuclear bomb like. You don't need to have that. We do experiments and it appears that we're synthesizing, but the world isn't there, because what happens is when you form these matter structures, the nucleus occur inside, and when the matter structure collapses, well, they just pop out. I can show you what happens because there's one photos of it. And I'll put it out.
You're showing it,
yeah. In a paper, it's a book. The book here, which I read, it's the Steps to the Discovery of Electronuclear Collapse by Taka Akimoto. Sadly, he died earlier this year. I did visit him just before he died. Okay. And the keys in which I must read, but I'll show you an example of what happens in these spheres, and we've replicated what he showed. Far in the universe, nuclear collapse is very often take place by the gravitational force after stars consume their fuel. That would be when the black hole happens, right? Since the electromagnetic force is about 40 orders of magnitude stronger than the gravitational force, it would be easy to induce similar collapses by electromagnetic force in the laboratory. But we never knew until now to do that. Recently, the author discovered a nuclear collapse which was induced by the electromagnetic laboratory during study of the so-called cold fusion. Several kinds of nuclear reaction which were directly induced by the electromagnetic force called electronuclear reactions were found to occur in a special state of clusters called iconic clusters, idea, or microball lightning. The nuclear collapse was one of the remarkable reactions among ENR called electronuclear collapse, ENC. Furthermore, amazingly, completely broken materials by ENC to be regenerated again to thin films of conventional, such as carbon and iron. The latter process of electronuclear regeneration. So, and push this so hard, all of the matter is converted field forms of matter. And there's a guy called Clad, and he had this between 1999 and 2000 using sound gravitation. It completely destroyed matter, converting it in just waves. So we observe disappearing. John Hutchison observed things disappearing inside of them. Here, in 1990s, published in fusion technology, the American fusion technology, used palladium electrodes loaded with deuterium. Matsumoto cut them in half, and you found inside? Material had disappeared.
Hmm.
Spherical sections that started on grain boundaries like this and grew and then consumed crystals. And he's ultimately microplaning. Here, he describes the process here, how it occurs. And the reason is because you get the concentration of and hydrogens at grain boundaries, and you end up forming this. Okay, the same thing occurred with John Hutchison, and if ultimately it's forming, if it's consuming the whole crystal boundary inside, where is the going? Well, if it goes into electromagnetic waves, or it goes into neutrinos, it can latch, and you don't even see it.
Hmm. So
you don't see it.
Question on that then,
so
if you don't mind.
Go on.
So I think there are two quick questions on this same topic here. Is that so? There's a zap where there's a flash when we see in our MH370 videos, at least in the satellite video. Do you think that that might be indicative of this type of process? And then a follow-up question would be, how much energy do you think would be required to induce this singularity that we see?
Very little. It's self-feeding. Once you get it, it does itself. So let me.
So you're saying it's amplifying? It's able to amplify itself and ramp up. Is that a good understanding, or how would you describe it?
So, if you have a cell in which you change the of electric form, what is an atom? An atom nucleus, let's say, it's a little, and on the outside you've got electrons, right? Mm-hmm. Now, the electron kept to the electrons are the positive nucleus, aren't they? Yeah. Because you got positive charge in the nucleus because of protons. Forget about the neutrons, right? You got the electrons on the outside. They attract it, stops the electrons collapsing into the cell. They repel each other, right? So there's equilibrium that they form. Now imagine you change zero, the ability of electric constant of the physical vacuum. These things can, the charge doesn't go away. They can collapse in. They get all the way into the middle, nuclear collapse. Then the electrons become part of all of the protons. In every atom that ever was, you always have an electron with every proton. So like the simplest one is hydrogen, protium. It has a proton and like that, right? If you have deuterium, it's a two neutrons. You still only have one electron. Every proton, you have an electron. Atom you're looking at. The one the plane's made of, the one the lithium batteries are made of, the text in someone's, everything's got every atom, new protons and electron. But if you change the electric constant, then and the electrons can't repel each other the same way they do, they collapse in nucleus and it becomes collapsed object, fully collapsed object. And you're going to, when I show John Archibald's comment, you're going to see everything you need, that short comment, explain what you're observing. Now, I can show you a video, what happens when an exotic factor, because of video, and you'll see like you see in your videos. And let me do this. It's one of the videos I shared on my blog.
Sure.
And the crazy thing is, when these things blow up, they actually leave a cold thing. So what happens when matter is collapsing in, and this happens at electronic speeds. People can't conceive of the speed at which these kind of reactions occur. They happen so fast, it's mind-boggling, right? You think when a bomb goes off, it goes from nothing, like a big freaking thing, miles wide. Well, look past. They claimed that the universe went from something the size of P to something the size which is unfathomably big. That is kind of when you're talking these reactions, they can occur to all intents and purposes instantly. Okay, and there are many things going on at the same time. So I'm going to share this one if I can drag this down, and it's called Blaster. Um, and you can see here. I don't. Oh no, I need to actually. That would help. Usually, the people on my channel can see. Let me share that. Yeah. So essentially, what you have is these flashes,
Yeah.
and then you have cold tone left over,
Hmm.
right? Um, and so this is an exotic vacuum object, but it's reached the point at which it's now detonating. And so if you look at Matsumoto's, he talks about 91, um, that when a black hole explodes, explosion of a black hole here, you get a carbon film form. You also get this wormhole, and the matter comes out somewhere else and is reborn as other elements in electronuclear regeneration. I can show you actually because I have it here. The biggest mess.
So real quick, in
Yeah.
that scenario though, it's matters coming out somewhere else, right? So for something that's the size of a
Yes.
777, shouldn't there be some byproduct somewhere?
Yeah, but it might be in the middle of the Earth in some galaxy far, far, far
Yeah,
away.
okay. I get it. Yeah, so it could be somewhere else that we're not seeing basically, right?
Um, I prefer the second option was using the 1979, the same year that I saw these balls in the
Mhm.
propulsion technology that was proposed to NASA by AC Holt, which has the fractal structure in there. Um, but before we go there, I'll just close this
Yeah.
out by showing you this diagram on page 91 here. So you can see it a little bit clearer here. So this is his having studied a lot of petite pieces of material.
Hmm.
You have this zone at which it expands out to, and that's the point of the collapse, and then through the worm, and you have the emission white hole. So
Hmm.
it may well be that this will go down to ground, and in whatever was originally, it's now inside the Earth.
That part about the eruption of the white
And
hole is very interesting. I was talking about that with Salvatore Pais, and just real quick on that, just a side note, you don't have to go too much into it. What do you think about Salvatore Pais and his work? Is that you think it, is similar to your work? Do you think there's differences? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's definitely well researched. I don't know how original it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know that in 2017, when I realized I had to either walk this science or actually, because of occasions of what I was finding, or move forward. And I only moved forward because it was obvious to me that being weaponized and it was only going to be subjugate humanity.
Yeah.
And so I thought I will take a full on reputation hit. I don't care. I had a choice, various reasons which I've explained, and I knew I would always have to do this. That it wouldn't be something anyone would be particularly with me doing. And I will say on your podcast for the first time,
Yeah.
when just before I released what a presentation, I looked into the camera and I deliberately looked at my mind, but I was acting. it was to gain a bit of buzz.
Yeah.
But the point was, genuinely, I was also in shock that it was easy to do.
Hmm.
But I said, oh, I don't know if people can sleep at night knowing what they've done and that they're hiding this from me.
Yeah.
And you know who they are. And I said, you have got a few years to come clean with this. And that was in March 2017. I said, you come out and be public about this because it's going to come out now.
Yeah.
It's come out. And one of the parties I was referring to was the US Navy. And that's the first time I've.
Wow.
It's absolutely crystal clear that they've had this technology.
Yep. For a long time,
And
probably
the
too.
evidence is already there in the record. So the other thing is about Salvatore Pi. I've already done a presentation. Like I went visited the Hutchison lab, which is in a secret location in Germany, his previous lab, which has been reconditioned and waiting to operate it, having the skill to do it. And sharing for the minute. And in there was a sample, and I pull it from, this is before the Pi patents were released, and I pull shelf, and I said, what is going on here? Is there is electric material, and the electromagnets interact with the helium block and form phase conjugation and coherent, and basis of what's going on, producing the Hutchison effect. The reason I said that is because late 1950s and in New Scientist in 63, using a piezo electric called quartz, which I referred to in a number of different cases. They used a magnetron to produce electromagnetic waves that goes into the piezo material, which can convert the electric waves into phonons at the frequency of the electromagnetic wave, and it tracks down the quartz to the other far side and reflect, and you get these little blips. The sound is at the frequency of, let's say, 2.4 gigahertz. That's the sound. It's sound, but it's weird to think about it. Like so ultrasound is unbelievable. And what they found is that if you go to 10 gigahertz, you actually start getting sound, which is at the same frequency, or rather in the same periodicity as the interatomic. Okay? And this leads you be able to create phase conjugation at each atom nucleus. And because as I said earlier, electrons have a relationship with us, right? The nucleus is held within a shield of electrons. If you squish that on the ions, because you've got a phonon come through, a sound wave, going to affect the nucleus, so you're going to get waves right in there. Means is you can make coherent matter. Now, what would be the best charge to make coherent matter from? The one with a single isotope. Well, it's aluminium. That is in the Salvatore Pi. He put PZT, lead titanate, a piezo material on the outside of aluminium, a monoisotope. It then hits it with pulses of magnetic waves. Why doing what it's doing? It's creating room superconductivity. It's converting that single isotope by using sound waves, which are the scalar, at the interspacing. It gets them to phase. And when you have all matter wave in phase, the whole thing becomes superconducting.
Wow. And then what happens when you've got a superconductor?
So 1983.
Yeah. And I agree. I think that a lot of Salvatore Pius's stuff and his patents, obviously, it leans on all types of science that's been out there forever. So when you've got that superconductor, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, you've got this superconductor now. So is that like the kind of the mechanism by which all the rest of this is possible in your mind? Or what leads from? Is it one leads to the other? Or how does that work in your mind? I guess that's my question.
Okay. So let me get the Lockheed Martin patent. It's like time to bring it in now.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Am I sharing mine, or am I? What's happening here? I'm not sharing.
You're not sharing yet. No.
That's okay.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So that's okay. All right. So down there. So you go to my blog at remoteview.ic and go just type in code. Probably that'll do it. Maybe there. It's the first blog. It's called public blog article, and it's the Aharonhof bomb effect, the bomb-Aharonhof effect, and it relates to the. So here it is: systems and methods for generator and matter waves. There we go. United States patent. This is probably one of the most important patents here. Understand. So this is filed December the 28th, 2011. Okay. and it was published on July the 4th, 2013. And so here you've a magnetic field, you've got microcavities here, you cathode, which is emitting charge clusters in the same way. Sorry, I'm not showing my screen, am I? So I myself.
It's okay. I have your other
Okay.
one up. I'm watching
So
your
here it
stream at
is.
the same time, so I was seeing it.
You're all right. Cunning. This
There we go.
is systems and generating matter wave being. There's the file, November the 28th, 2000, and it was first published 2013. I think the patent here, I think maybe this did 22nd 2016. I saw it in 2017 or 18 or something. Anyway, they emit electrons via spiodes with a this is exactly the way that done by Tesla, and it is exactly done by his electrical particles of as described shortly before he died. And this is the way that Ken Shoulders did it. They pass through a magnetic field with these coupled resonant cavities, forces coherence along with the field, and you get a coherent matter, right? And this is the moment that aha for me.
Yeah.
This is the structure, right? Okay. And this is a coherent matter. Okay. So they know how you like. So furthermore, unlike the Bose-Einstein condensate of coherent matter wave, technology may produce coherent matter with both fermions and bosons achieve coherence.
Wow.
Okay, according to various aspects of the subject, a system for generating coherent beam is provided. The system consists of a plurality of beam generating disposed. Each of the plurality of beam generating unit generated stream of charged particles, and so on. Okay. According to various aspects of the technology, intense direct coherent matter wave beams of particles, e.g., particles within spins, or fermions, e.g., particles off integer spins, neutral or charged produce. So basically, there's no restriction. The energy stored in these beams virtually zero entropy, experimental physics with unexplored territories. Coherence in matter waves, in particular fermions, may be beyond the reach of technologies unless the temperature can be reduced to zero. However, even this approach may work for bosons using conventional blah blah blah. And then he goes on to explain himself, but he goes on to explain that you do not need to have zero, can be at any temperature, only need, as I was describing in this. But I want to talk about the outfit. Coherent matter waves may allow electrons as well as boson to coherence. Exemplifications. I'm going to zoom in right. Here's the money shot. All right, well, it's not going to let me, but because I'm in there, doesn't matter. Exemplifications for coherent matter wave include single bath energy extraction. What is this? Like sucking out of an air-free space. We couldn't ordinarily do it. Normally, you need a differential to capture energy. Right? Using this, you can it's like a black hole. You can suck into something. This is a weapon, actually, but in all by itself. Ultra-sensitive accelerometers, interferometric track of air and spacecrafts. You usually move this to track these objects, okay? In difficult things that you can't track other way. A more accurate alternative to global positioning, matter wave projectiles.
Wow. So is that teleportation?
And this is not.
Or is that something different? What do you think? Well, how would you define matter wave projectile?
This is a ball of clustered energy. Can fire. And because it has its own that allows it to own space-time, it loses its inertia. And so you can accelerate. If it with a little bit of negative, you can use, so as described, how just using 200 volts from your domestic power socket, you can accelerate whole incredible volume of energy to one to the speed of light just with the field generated by a normal
Wow.
electric socket. You
So,
don't need a huge linear accelerator,
so you
okay?
don't need a
Because the
power.
mass is
Okay.
completely removed.
Yeah.
The inertia is removed. Okay?
Huh. So if you remove the inertia,
Uh,
then you don't need a ton of
Missiles.
power, right? Go ahead.
No, you don't.
Hmm.
You can expect something phenomenally fast with a low yield.
Hmm.
Okay.
Wow.
Um, uh, Only matter wave projectiles and missiles, directed energy weapons. That's different from matter waves and missiles. Direct energy. So what you can do is, in my presentation at Chin, I showed what cold electricity. It's a cluster, toroidal cluster of electrons in this condensed state, which then is guided wire. So this was shown in Hidden's book. It was shown in 1990 Moscow, right? An 8 micron wire, you can 25 kilowatts of power. What's happening is the structure is guided down the wire by field, and it can have more energy, but the energy is in a superconducting state relative to the wire. The wire is just the guide.
Yeah.
Now you can make a wire. You can make a by using a laser to ion air, and then the large cluster travels down the ion air channel
Hmm.
as a wire, a virtual wire. So that is your directed energy. Okay, you can direct, but there's also other ways you can do it. You can. Spin Shoulders talks about fluid electrons, which we have created. You can send those fluid electrons to somewhere. They can go metal, and they can direct what happens to them.
Hmm.
You can get them to detonate in one go and shred them in, or you can get them to destabilize, turn the metal to jelly. There's all different ways you can manipulate them. This is like it's like magic, and you send off of
Yeah.
things that you can then ask it various with, right? Matter wave so with matter wave optics, you can change the uh, the the electric, not dielectric properties, the refractive properties of an area of space. So you can create ends in the sky. If you wanted to lens substance, you could literally create a lens that's not physical, just literally created a lens in. So I remember burning, what do you call ants when I was a kid. I got over it. I'm guilty even with dying, but
You
like they were
monster.
quite annoying. There was a lot of apparently the tenth of the all animal bio life on Earth is ants. So I've kind of got to come to terms with my killing
Mm.
ants. Yeah, you can use a magnifying glass to just burn it, and so you could in theory create a virtual lens in a freedom of the atmosphere to direct sunlight, were
Hmm.
in the same way the Greeks or some ancient civilization used mirrors to burn ships. They have these big copper mirrors or something. They would point them all on one ship. They would set light to it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cloaking. You can use this cloaking,
Hmm.
so you can track a cruise missile and then make it cloak, right?
Hmm.
Matter wave emissions and propulsion,
Yeah.
propulsion
That
in there
propulsion part's getting me.
using this matter wave. Oh, I know, and then I'm going to shut down.
Okay.
Wave solitons, high engines, and vision matter optics tests for physical contents and suitable applications. This is shot there. This is kind of a idea of where you might want to use it, but it's the applications are mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. It's literally a whole new era in science. And this is 2011. This submitted just as Ken Shoulder 1987. In 1987. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm going to put papers at you right now. So this is Force-Free Time Harmlasmoids by Jack Natchin, and he is at the Phillips Laboratory Directorate at the Air Force Material Edwards Air Force Base. And this is from 1992. It's on paper, but you can get it free,
Yeah.
publicly available. and it talks about the structure. A herefore to unexplored solution of Maxwell's is investigated for time harm and particular ionized gas. Analysis is focused on the spherical cases that behave like electric energy trapped in the plasmoid. Okay, you're going to hear the word plasmoid a lot. Okay, it will be shown that a critical frequency exists below which the current cannot be carried by electrons and would remain stable. Resonance sizes to exist. Such plasmoid will not exchange any external surroundings. You can build these things, eject them, and they're not going to dissipate any energy at all, wherever they go. You can get energy in there to get energy in there, but once you've made these, they're in their own little bubble of time.
Interesting.
And their boundary can be met by vacuum solutions to measurements, virial analysis, calculus density, blah, blah, blah. What are they looking? Well, under conditions, they may have names anomalous discharges, charges, and ball lightning.
There it is.
I'm telling you, this is what it is. What happened to Moto is he was happily in the American Nuclear Society's jet fusion technology until 1993, when he's correlating this phenomena with Ball. Then they changed the rules, preventing him to publish. Then the Air Force, under J.R.R. Ross, in the following year, it was actually submitted, and I think it was published May 95, submitted a paper that said ball lightning teaches about fusion technology. You can create a 10 millimeter ball lightning. It would provide all the energy for a home. That was in fusion technology. After that, him from talking about ball lightning, Ken Shoulders would watch his thing in our field as condensed matter nuclear science. Ken Shoulders was prevented from, a guy that worked at Los National Laboratory demanded data of the Library of Fire and Cold Fusion called atlanta.org to remove Shoulders' work from the database. And I never heard of Ken Shoulders' object / ball lightning work, Matsumoto's work, until I mentioned them first time in 2017. Since started working in the field from 2012. It's crazy. So this is lightning, and what does it look like? It's a sphere, like this. They don't know about the in 1992. They didn't know or understand in the West about kernel structure. It forms this object, which is a quantized is in here to stable quantization level. Tells you about what's on the skin of it. And you know the fluid nature of it. So here we go. Images. Look, spherical void. Matching plasmoid boundaries at the surface of the plasmoid, and magnetic fields are tangential to the surface. This be exactly matched by external fields. So they're stable. Once you make these, they can fly through water, they can through the air, they can fly through space. Okay.
And they're perfectly stable, right? So it can pretty much just go and do whatever you want for any period of time, right? So you could deploy it, you could have it just float around, have it being controlled, and it's going to be perfectly stable.
So our understanding is, I'll show you a slide from a presentation, and then help me to you understand how this thing can be stable. So I need to here. It's not that one, is it? There's that one, and then I need to get and I want a slide. So I was talking about the Penrose step, okay? Going round and going around. The phase singularity in the center here, actually going up or down, and you get that with your strip, and then you get that there. And this is what I was talking about: single bundle extraction. That is a Mobius strip. And extracting thermal energy at a distance, okay? And this losing matter because it's yin force, so it's not as bright as destroying matter. The yang makes a brighter flash because it can most of the energy, but it still out to a different place.
Okay.
Anyway,
Huh.
I was going to show you what. Show you. What was I going to show you?
I think I was asking about because so I'm kind of going back to the videos in terms of the balls and whether or not they're stable and if they can just float through the air.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
here you are. Here you are. Here you are. So in the top left there, you have basic structures. The torus with a and the electron in or the ions coming into this singularity where it can't go out here.
Yeah.
This is the overall fractal structure. And found this in Henk Uren's experiment. This was the first one we've found many since.
Oh, wow.
And this collapsed matter wave function. Okay. Calcium oxide, calcium and oxygen and calcium oxide are all magnetic. They can all live inside magnetic structure. But side, it has here and carbon here. These are all diamagnetic. They cannot go across the boundary because they get repelled by the magnetic force at the okay. Now, H3 to the Russia have a regular meeting with, and they immediately sense, and this is from in the biology, a guy called Zverblis. Zverblis was invited because he did in DNA and coils and how you could make, because the DNA is the coil of a coil of a coil, right? He thought if he started making complex coil, he could interact somewhat with DNA. And so this word got about and was invited into this Moscow base in 1988, and technology, which looked like here, where I've got my mouth. And what they did is they put 30 AC through this, showed on a flux gate magnet an AC magnetic wave in the center of this structure. And then what they did is they turned the power, and it still persisted. And then what they did is they moved the device where the center of it was AC magnetic waveform, moved it over to the side, and free space that it was left behind, it still had the magnetic form. And that this persists for 2 days, even when the power's turned off. Wow. And so he thought, this is crazy. You're obviously pulling some trick on me. I don't believe that this is real. So he went to Nevesky, and I've translated both of these papers on my blog. And although it was in 1988, he only published after the Union in 1992, the peer-reviewed journal, and what he found was using standard Maxwell equations, if you have current going in a loop, you produce a magnetic vector with the azimuth. If you have this and you rotate them 9 degrees and put a loop of those, you have a magnetic loop with an electric field going azimuth. If you take that and you rotate it 90 degrees and put that loop, you have now another electric loop with a magnetic field. And this can go on indefinitely. Exactly what I described in 2020, having derived this structure from looking at impact marks on the Johnson sample. John Hutchison being the same that Ken Shoulders developed car charge from. Okay.
And that structure you just showed there, was that what you define as a fractal toroidal, or is that, how do you define this donut shape that you have in the bottom left?
This fractal. Yeah, so like here is the fractal toroidal structure. I looked at the SE and I found different levels. So this rotates 90 degrees and you get this structure, full core running through the center.
Yeah.
Take that structure and I'm looking at see it here. Now that one, if I take that and I rotate that 90 degrees, I have 48 divisions around here. That's how I got to this. And then we saw the impact marks. This is 4. This is more. We see these structures, and these are structures. This is 36. This would be 48 as a full tour. This is 3 in the subtour here. Okay. Yeah, so these created this structure, and is if you have a magnetic if you current going through a wire. I'm going to stop share right now because it's just easier to do it with my arms, right?
Sure.
If you have electricity going through a wire, the pointing vector comes off and is dissipated. If you're going through a coil, the pointing vector comes dissipated. If you have a wrapped into a coil, then the pointing vector comes off and dissipates. But if you have a coil, in a coil, then the pointing vector goes into a loop. And so none of the energy dissipated. And you can keep putting energy in, and it gets trapped in a vacuum current. Now, the word vacuum, the phrase vacuum current, comes from this, established by Vesky in 1988, 1992, and released to the West when they threw in the towel when I sent 3 images. If you have a coil of a coil of a coil of a coil, that then has a loop to there and a loop of pointing back 90 degrees. And if one collapses, it energizes the other one, and vice versa. And so you have a stable exotic vacuum object. It's a energy concentrated upon space-time, which require any visitor at all. And it can be, now Freiberger at the Stanford Linear Accelerator, he calculated independently the same thing that Novetzky did 2 decades earlier, or whenever, in 2009, when he was trying to explain ball lightning floating around in the superconducting cavity inside a national US. And he counted that the energy concentration caused by this standard Maxwell equation derived phenomena could lead to vacuum decay. That is, it would knock a baryon off reference to the Dirac sea, and it would fall apart, and the baryon would just fall apart. Okay, so I'm sorry to say, but this is what one looks like when you make it, due to Cosmic Day for making you in the UK. So you can see you have a coil wrapped into a coil, that's into a coil. There we go. He developed a vending machine to make these things. These are aware. They put them on parabolic dishes and then project them.
Wow.
That's all I'm saying.
So that's what, when you were showing that patent earlier,
Okay.
that's pretty much how you can enable all of those functionalities that we were seeing there, the weapon, the propulsion, the cloaking.
I don't know, but I'm going to describe this. Look, here, I'm going to go back to sharing. Share screen, and we'll go here and do yeah, share. Right, can you see my screen again?
Yeah, I think it's starting right now.
Okay. So
yeah, there it is. Okay.
Around that ball section that was cut, disappeared. This is in a flash, right? I can go and look on the FMP's YouTube channel, Martin Moore Project's YouTube channel. You see the beautiful pattern, coherent matter as it bores. It's like low tubes running through the copper. And next, the copper is not melted evenly. It's like scalloped out. Incredible to see, right? But just on the boundary, you have these fractal toroidal structures of different orders of n minor level tors. So on this one, you have 2 making the structure, and you can see still in the center as did. Here you 3, and in the center is like a paisley pattern, and the center has disappeared. Here you've got 4, and you're in the center, and it's appeared. Okay, so in each case here, you'll get you only need 3, because 2 you can't define a plane. And Bostic was the work that I told you about. Bostic trying to fusion. Here are his impacts published in 80, and he says a D ring with spokes under the. It's the same thing. It is. Now, in a, we'll show you here. I've got it. Yeah, I've got it. Yes. This is the 1979 by Holt, called Field Resonance Propulsion Concept. And in this paper, every single thing you've seen supposedly about the behavior of unidentified aerial objects in recent congressional testimony. You can go and read it in this document from 79.
Wow.
It's like literally mean that.
No, it doesn't
So the
surprise me.
speculative
Keep going.
yeah, the speculative propulsion described in this paper was at a special session of the 15th. These guys, propulsion in June the 18th to 20th, 99. Propulsion concepts for galactic spacecraft. This concept was developed as a result of private unofficial research, is not involved in the UFO research. We've got by this because NASA doesn't want to be involved. However, which may be stimulated by could be result indication of the essential of this concept and the feasibility studies development of a new generation of NASA space. Okay. Electromagnetic wave, gravitational waveform, trimetrics. The system utilizes recent research associated with magnetic field line, hydromagnetic wave effects, and lasers, laser generation fields. Okay. So it talks on waves and properties of the Earth here. Here is the money shot. This is the money shot.
I think you might be sharing the wrong view. I'm not sure. Oh.
Am I?
Yeah, I think so.
Am I? Let me try that. Sorry.
No problem.
This one. This is the money shot. Can you see it?
Yeah, it should be coming up here in a second. Maybe.
Can you see it?
There it is. Yep. Now I can see it. Yep. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So is a current loop, a current loop, a current loop, a current loop.
Yeah.
That's a magnetic loop. That metal moment. This is, you can go and look it up on Wikipedia. Metal moment is. Now, look, magnetic field line reconnection.
Yeah.
They connect, produce magnetic vortex. That creates your phase synchronity that allows for coherence at the center point. Now, going around that plane is 3 of these.
Yeah.
Not one. Know what the Royal moment was in 1979. It wasn't verified in the West until 1997. Right? So they were behind the Soviets. Okay? But this comes to my second hope. Not that the matter is destroyed, like we seem to be able to do fairly readily in a range of cold fusion experiments and our own experiments, and they've caught on. I hope that it packaged itself into one of these bubbles and it's used as a drive to move it to somewhere else.
Interesting.
It's not teleported. It's not teleported. It's the space-time metric, no mass or inertia. And then you can move the next tour up and one tour below with no effective mass and move it around by the same way you've above.
Huh. So that's really interesting.
But when it collapsed, the problem. Go on.
I was just going to ask, so because I mean, what you just said there was a pretty big bingo moment for me, right? It's like you reduce that mass and you can move it around wherever you want. Can you move it in any direction if you do that, or are you limited in the direction of travel?
Everything balls that come in can do, you can do. Everything that you can see any of these spheres do in any ports ever, you can do. They can move in any direction, and there will be a no inside that bubble.
Wow.
So they can be going like that, and instantly they could go underground, like to space, they could go forward, back immediately as soon as that struck them.
Wow.
And the interesting thing is time down or stop for the participants in there. And like I say, and Ken Shott in his writings has clearly noted that you can go with a small at 1/10 the speed of light. Well, it would take you no time at all. And also, you could instantaneously. Now, I was describing sometime earlier today, we were at the Technical Museum here where I live. Yeah. And I was saying, like, there's a real problem in a car accident, even at 75 now, because you're the dashboard, right? Sorry, your head hits the dash. Your skull stops immediately, keeps moving forward. And it turns, right? You can't decelerate. But in this, you can decelerate instantaneously. So you can go from 600 capture it in a bubble, move it at the speed of light to another point source
Yeah.
and stop it instantaneously and gently lay it down round.
Wow.
And then you have a method for decoherence.
That's so two questions
And
on that.
it might go,
Yeah. Because so if you put it in a bubble though, isn't the
you
object
hold it
is
like you're above the ground.
yeah, isn't the object in the bubble going to keep moving at the same speed that it got put into the bubble, or is that also able to be modified? Does that make sense?
There's ways to get around. I'm sure
Okay.
there's ways to get around. Effectively, it, as soon as it can that thing, it's relatively in that. If you know what I'm, otherwise
Yeah.
you're kind of arguing that it should punch itself way out. No, it hasn't. It's stuck in
Yeah.
there. It's locked. It's
Yeah.
literally locked.
And so you think that
So
if there's
it's
any
stuck in there.
like
Now I'm going.
yeah, one more thing real quick on that because I think you talked about fermions and bosons and converting them. You know, are we talking about a situation where we convert them back? And if I'm talking about the videos, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is like, could the occupants still be alive based on what that's happening? Can the plane survive the event that happens there, or is it going to be deconstructed, destroyed? What are your theories on that based on all the science that you've kind of shown us here today?
If you get this right, likely thing is that the matter is averted to other matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just that's what will happen, right?
Got it.
That's what it appears in physical experiments. So you don't. The fact that they were discussing exactly the toroidal motion as a means of intergalactic travel back in 1969, and they were
Yeah.
right. This is what you need.
Yeah.
It's not, and I'm not the time to tell them to go and put them in this proposal, right? You look at the associated this. There's an associated paper from 76, and they fire a laser in Japan into a nonlinear plasma, and they create toroids in the plasma with internal magnetic field over 1,000 Tesla. That was replicated and funded by the US Department of Energy, the UK, the European Union, South Korea, and published in 2021, the phenomena. They found it produced in their ones, if it was 20 something microns across, it was something like 360. Okay, and bearing in mind the MIT superconductor is 50 Teslas doing fusion. Okay, 1,300. No, the smaller it gets, higher the magnet gets. Okay, and I will show you this because it's in my presentation here. Get there. Am I showing again? I can't tell.
You're showing the pattern.
What am I showing? Okay. Okay. So let me go present a view.
And yeah, I'm gonna need to wind down here in 5 or 10 minutes as well. So if we want to, if you want to try to conclude, go ahead.
Yeah. So
I appreciate the time, sir.
Is this laser? This is the laser, and it was published Physics of Plasmas in 2021.
Yeah, this
one. As this small magnetic field goes up, but note your vortex motion on that plane here is the magnetic field at 1,000 Tesla, but also magnetic field that comes to a hard here. Okay, we know that ions and electrons come in here, or matter will be pulled in here. Oh God, there's so much I need to go through, but anyway, all right, fine. This is the phase singularity. The magnetic field literally it stops. That singular, the phase singularity. That is the magnetic core. Okay, and that is the same at which the Poynting vectors close. Electromagnetic, everything. The wave comes through the center, and you're going to know in a minute when you listen to John Wheeler that the gravitational waves come through the center. You know the electro and magnet come in here, and it's a singular. This is where singularity in terms of unification of the forces. Okay, so we're going to listen to Wheeler. Hopefully you can hear it. I'm going to move mine down. I don't know whether it'll pick it up. Let me know if you hear it. Stop it at relevant points. It's going to do it. It's going to let me do it. do it? Why doesn't it let me do that? Oh, okay, that's going to not help. That's going to happen like that. I might need to get that video separately. Bear with me. If you have any questions now, fire them to me and I'll get
Yeah.
the video.
No, so I think that really, just to kind of sum it all up, I think that what the audience really wants to know is your thoughts on kind of the effects, even so much as I think we appreciate the science a lot, and I hope that the academics who are watching will, look at this and take it very seriously, because a lot of people wonder and they think when we talk about this kind of stuff that they think that it's not proven or that it's not supported by science. But I think as you've done here, you've shown that it absolutely is, and it's proven by science. It's been out there for decades. And so I think that from a perspective of the videos and the MH370 videos, what we kind of want to know is, what's possible? What are we looking at here? I think what I've heard, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, is that we could be looking at an annihilation event. We certainly could be looking at, I'm going to still call it teleportation, but I think that really it's more complex than that. It's a situation where we can move an object, a matter wave can be moved around freely, just like we see these orbs move around, ignoring gravity. The inertia could be stopped entirely. We can have it, put it down wherever we want, theoretically. And to me, that's very powerful because it answers a lot of the questions that I've had about the videos. And that's why, before I let you speak, I just want to say I appreciate you and the time and going through all this. So did I get that right? Or what are your thoughts just from the straight up, kind of what could hypothetically be happening scenario?
Yeah, so I very firmly believe the two most likely options. One, total annihilation. And I believe that this was developed as a weapon to remove projectiles. I believe this is why they don't care about miles. Like you say, Eugene gets up and he says, "Oh, if your carrier groups, rail will be able to launch Kinzhals from our from our aircraft." Like no one even bats an eye.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's going at Mach
Wipe it out.
because we can literally make them do, and it's the perfect technology. It doesn't matter whether you've got a dirty bomb or a fusion bomb, a thermonuclear bomb. A nuclear bomb still has plutonium, like a nuclear bomb. It has a plutonium trigger. If you knock these guys with a missile or tungsten thing formed from a satellite, you have as many missiles as you have tungsten things coming from the satellite. It's not an electromagnetic system, which you can just recharge by getting a bit more sight, or nuclear charge board. You have a situation where you're raining down one of the most tolerant to human life with plutonium, and it's got a half-life of like 200,000 years or something ridiculous. So this is going to be a problem for a very long time. Every single bomb that rains down. But if you have a system that literally makes that matter convert whatever it is into light and leptons, which are all very friendly, right? It's not a problem. Nothing rains down. Literal perfect defense initiative.
Wow.
Right? Perfect one. So I honestly, my gut instinct is likely a technology was developed for bring into ballistic missiles, and now that's why America and China and Russia on this, because it doesn't matter. And I have been for years, long before I saw your video. I've been saying they don't care about weapons, and I believe that the Russians are onto this because the generation of fighter jets will have metal in them, so they're less prone to being affected by this. They will have actually no weapons or nothing that will have metal in it if they do it.
Yeah, real quick, can you switch your screen to stop share real quick and show our faces while you talk about this? Because I want to potentially clip this as well. I think that, so just from the one aspect, right, is you just mentioned that we could have a perfect defense, something that can completely wipe out a bomb, missile, anything that's coming at you, just completely nullify it.
I've said in short, I've said in short, I do not, I have argued that the reason they don't care about Kinzhals and upgrade nuclear arsenal and stuff is because they already have a solution that they can knock these things out. And I quote this number: they can knock them out at one speed of light. So who cares about Mach 14? No, they can get these things, generate them, move them to any on Earth at 1/10 the speed of light easily. I mean, you can go faster, but and then literally, and I've literally said they can make the things disappear. That's lit, and it's recorded on I don't know which videos, and I've said it a number of times, so they don't care about. And then when I saw your video, I go, oh,
there it is.
There you go. It's that, and it is a lightning structure. It is the mono. And when I will get this Wheeler video, I have to close with that.
Sounds good.
All you need to know. Guy that worked on the Manhattan Project. He was the tutor of Feynman, and he is the person who's attributed with talking about black holes and wormholes. And what he describes, when you know there is a gravity, we've shared these videos, look at them, called extreme actions. Go and look at those videos. You can see when one of these EVOs is moving in this direction, not caring about any electromagnetic fields in the reactor. Another one comes over from here, and within the horizon, it starts orbiting around it, or gets. But more interesting, it does it in its directional path. So you have one coming over here, and it's starting around before it's even got it. Got there.
Yeah.
So you know that there is a field coming in front of this structure. Right now, when those things are around the plane, they will be pointing in any direction, allow them to link their gravitational waves together. They will be arranging so that they have the center in without these capacities out to the disruptor there, and they will be forward ideally, but they can move around because they don't link in a loop like I showed you.
Yeah.
Right, in my 3D visualization.
Wow.
They must link their gravitation there. I'll show with Wheeler, but what happens is, they're on the sub-tour level, but they're still individual end tours, right? When they rotate like that, this with that one, this one links with that one, and links with that there. That gravitational wave creates a new gravitational azimuth through the center of the. That pinches these in, increasing the gravitational azimuth. That pinches it in. A self-feeding loop. They self-organize to the point which their non-radiating repel each other. And then the tour above. And it's literally like that. You can't even imagine how fast that will occur.
So is that why they converge?
And when together, they have...
Yeah, keep going.
They're self-aligning, self-organizing. And it's all ways. And you have to get Wheeler safe because everything you need in what Wheeler says. So
let's do this. Let's first. I also want to ask too. Just a quick clarity. So I was thinking maybe can you speak to the let's call it teleportation aspect again one more time, and then show the video, and then after that I'd like you to plug whatever you want to plug, because I think that you've done some amazing research. You've blown my mind. Go ahead.
So the teleportation, so when you are in the structures, I believe that because the zero's changed, your own space-time bubble, you not really perceive time. And because you are in a fractal torus, and because your brain works on the toroidal moment, brains need the toroidal moment for cognitive function, right? Mm-hmm. This is how people can do telekinesis, and how Nina Kuna could stop a person's heart and move things around. She had the ability and the understanding to control these things. And look up Nina Alagina. Anyway, so if you are in there, you're tightly stopped. Now, if you can move 10 to the speed of light, you have no inertia and you have no mass. You can accelerate fast and slow down fast. Okay. Now what you do is you have no perception of time. In one blink of an eye, you're on another point in the planet and you're suddenly stopped. And that's it. To you, you have teleported, right? Because in the blink of an eye, you're in a completely different location. So conceptually, you have teleported.
Wow. Okay.
And I've been joking to my wife's Vietnamese, and been joking to her, look, at some point, you're going to be able to we're going to be able to visit, and our lunch come back through the planet.
Yeah, through the planet. And the amount of
Not
energy
around the
is
planet,
very minimal,
through the
right? That we would
planet.
have to pull this off is that because of these electromagnetic effects that are happening where it's just amplifying itself, we don't even need a large amount of energy to pull this off. Is that what I heard? Or layman's understanding?
Imagine electron. Imagine electron. That's how much you have to move that one electron.
Yeah,
Now
nothing.
you have to move that here to here.
Yeah.
It's almost zero.
Wow.
And it's well described in Shoulders' papers. Almost effortlessly.
Wow.
Now the point is, why would you not want this technology out? Well, you imagine has a craft that uses nearly energy, and they could go to any point on, and they don't have to go through baggage, don't have to show their passports, they don't have to do X, Y, and Z. How the hell could you completely humanity?
Oh,
How
yeah.
could you? To convince them to have a chip in there which would switch them off.
It's
And
almost
by
like,
the way,
yeah.
the same technology, and I don't want to go into what else technology is bad enough with this.
I was gonna say too, though. It's like
So,
I was thinking that, oh well, we can make infinite energy, but now it's almost the opposite. We just don't need any energy. So now having any amount of energy now becomes
you
10
don't
times
need
more,
it.
right? Yeah. So it serves the same purpose, right?
I've said, look, you've got hydroelectric. I'll tell you how you can make an energy generator. You've got a high dam. Excellent. We're already 9.9% of the way. That you use one of these structures, we capture tons of water and we put it in your top.
Yeah.
We let it run through your generator. Done.
Done. Free energy. There you go.
There's ways you can think about this. On a heat pump, we use zero bath, single bath extraction. You make an extremely cold air over here, and you make an extremely hot over here by using the reverse. For hot and a cold zone, well, you can use a thermal generator. You can change the epsilon zero for one side of a load of rocks on a pulley system running around two cogs tied to a dynamo, and literally this side's lighter. And all that's within the beam of that, and it goes around in a loop. And when it goes over, it's heavier,
Wow.
right? There's so many ways you could make an electrical generator, but the reality is you can convert matter to energy. Now, you take two deuterons and you fuse them, 25 roughly million electrons, right? If you take carbon and oxygen, you get CO2, 5 electron volts. So you can see
Fusion.
why 25 is bigger than 5.
Yeah.
Even if you take 5 and you divide 4 nucleons, that's a lot than 5, right? It's a million, right? But take a nucleon, a baryon, like a proton-neutron, and you turn that for energy by unraveling all electromagnetic energy that's trapped in that non-radiating structure, a pole that is the baryon, right? If you rip that apart, over 900 million electrons. There is nothing beyond this.
Wow.
There is nothing beyond this. It's 133 times more energy than you get from fusion.
So basically infinite energy at that point. Yeah. More than we would ever need.
As Salvatore Pais said, I'm paraphrasing, but in Latin, like we can destroy asteroids, but we can also take 4 unit size of a domestic fridge. We can put down the central plane of the, and using the power to run a domestic kettle for a week, create a singularity at the center of the Earth, and the entire Earth will disappear. That's basically what it says in the Salvatore Pais.
I read it, and that's the same conclusion I came to.
Using this application of this principle, we can also do fusion energy.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Now you can do to energy direct conversion. Now, this is where you have to understand this is the great power. Anyone that has a face has the answer. This is the structure.
Yeah.
So we are built the technology that runs the entire universe, and can build it and completely build it, right? Whether it's going one way or the other. And the weird thing, I used to mock for always having these aliens with a load of prosthetic on their face. We are the answer to the program. It's in our phone. So let me I'll get this Wheeler thing.
Yeah, pull up Wheeler, and then yeah, that was amazing though. Thank you, Bob, for that explanation. I appreciate that.
the new dawn of an old age, and I'm not playing. I'm going to play that. Go on, play for me. Maybe I've just got no resources. I'm going to close and restart again.
No problem.
I'll close down.
And while you're pulling that up, I do want to thank you for being on Hard Truths #2 here today and going through all this evidence. I think that this is the perfect example of hard truths. This is information that a lot of people have a hard time understanding and accepting. We just went through the implications just a second ago. I mean, we are talking about new sources of power, being able to need very little power to move things and essentially teleport them throughout the planet. We're talking about technology that could essentially create doomsday weapons and destroy our whole planet, which could understand, this could be the explanation for why it's hidden.
You can destroy suns.
Yeah, we can destroy, yeah. I mean, I don't even want to necessarily go into all the implications there because it starts to freak me out a little bit, but it's very scary. It's very big. And so this means that we have to be very responsible, I think, with this technology. And yeah.
Not religious here, but I'm going to say, Jesus said, the meek shall inherit the earth. But the weak is a mistranslation from the original Greek. And it actually means those that know that they have great power, but choose not to use it, will inherit the earth. There's one significant problem with this technology. If it's used in a war, I believe it will destabilize the magnetic field that locks the crust to the earth. And we will have a cataclysmic event.
Yeah.
It cannot be used in war. You cannot use this anger.
Yeah, that honestly.
I'm not talking about the planet. I'm talking about wiping everything off of the earth.
No, I understand.
Literally wiping like with a claw. Yeah.
It makes me even think about not trying to reveal this technology because I can understand this is most likely the reason why it's being held back. The reason for the disinformation is that the same people have come to the same conclusion that you and I have come to. But the reality is I think that we can't hide this forever. Humanity deserves this because, as you pointed out, it can change the world. It can change the circumstances of millions, if not billions, as I've brought up before, people that have nothing on this planet. But we have to use it responsibly, right? That's my opinion.
Absolutely. You're bang on. Absolutely bang on. And the thing is, we used this on Earth before. It's in all of the ancient symbology. Every aspect is precisely in the symbology. And any point in the universe can easily how to do this from just a nature. Like I said, I did no maths, no preconception, literally looked at what was under a microscope, what's going on, and I started drawing pictures until, oh my God, this is how it works. And it's so simple. Right, I'm going to see it will work now.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, he's going to work.
You got it?
Right, I'm going
nice.
to
Pull it up.
you down here. Yeah, I think so. Voila. And he speaks really slowly, but that's good because I'm going to stop him, and then I'm just going to fill in the slideshow. And this is the guy that invented black holes, right? So
Ken Wheeler, right?
Yeah. Gonna do it for me or what?
Radiation, a pencil written.
I need to share mine.
I hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, share mine because they're seeing it. So.
That's fine. As if they're seeing it, it's probably fine. I'm probably going to use your recording here as well.
No, I want it recording. Where are we going? Where are you going now? I've got about 1 million of those open here. Share screen. I want desktop 2. Share. Right.
There we go.
All right. Okay. So and I'm gonna go on to Wheeler here. Wheeler, take it away. Do it for me.
Radiation is energy with it. Energy has mass, and therefore a penetration must exert some attraction on things beside it.
A pencil of radiation, like so, a light beam.
Yeah.
It's got energy. It's mc squared. It therefore must have mass. Therefore, it exerts some attraction around it.
Yep.
What about getting a pencil of radiation curved circle, the light goes round and round. Then the direction it exerts is concentrated as if. So what it bends this circle, this pencil radiation into the circle, gravitational attraction of the pencil of radiation itself.
So this structure here, which looks very much like the structures this is from his 1954 paper. This has a gravitational azimuth going through the center. That is a stable called Gion, and he predicted that things in the universe were made like this. Okay, so everywhere around this radiation that's going around, you an attraction. But this stable structure is by the gravitational action. As that means there is a gravitation going through the center. As I said before, be a gravitational beam going this. Right, let him carry on.
That was the idea of the Gion. Actually, if you think of different possibilities for the size of that Gion, bigger or smaller, you find that if it's the energy is low, to push the radiation together requires energy, and you climb a hill like the hill of a volcano till you've come to a maximum energy.
So, to do ordinarily, you have to put energy. To push it together, it takes more and more energy together. Okay, wait.
And then, if the radiation becomes any inside, the energy starts down, and the thing collects. So a Gion is really unstable entity. It either blows up into a cloud region traveling a one direction, or it goes into a totally collapsed object, something that we today would call a black hole.
Okay, so if you can push together enough, the thing would climb into a black hole. But wait, there's
but that's the analysis I have in mind when I first published this work. Only later did I see that that's a feature that's in it. Nowadays, I'm attracted to the idea that this pencil radiation going around this does not have to be light, it could be gravitational wave.
Right, so we already know we've got a gravitational beam coming through here, through our structure, right?
And you could have gravity waves imploding to make a black hole.
Everything you need to know is in that little clip by the guy who came up with the term black hole.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think
it's a bit of a spiritual way to be able to decode that.
Yeah, I think that, and just what I'll say.
This is a guy, end of his life will get on it. Go on.
I was just going to say, I think that for me, I was going to say just very briefly that, uncovering the science behind this has actually led to me a better spiritual understanding for me as well. This is all so deep, and I think from the layman's perspective, it's just completely unknown. So the last few months of going through this, learning from you and other engineers, scientists, physicists, have given me a whole new understanding of our reality, to be honest. So thanks for sharing that John Wheeler video. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's freely downloadable from remoteview.icu. It is my practical applications for the fractal moment. What is each substructure can go down to toroids that are twice the diameter of the Planck's distance, and each level can have up to 48, but maybe a little subtors. You can imagine there is almost unfathomable numbers of ways that can be organized. Things self-assemble so darn quick. And what he's saying there is what I started at is these tors, when they arrange themselves so the gravitational wave pulled into the next one and pulled in, they pinch in, they make the new gravitational azimuth and pinch in until it forms a stable structure. And at that point, it's not in our space-time. It either collapses, which he says, it can go into a hole, and I've described how when things occur, you're not necessarily expecting thermal energy out. You're going to get other forms of field energy. You could have a stable structure that's self-similar, like the ones that in the first place, and can be in all of those magical ways you see manipulated when they were brought into the science plane. I would like to think better. That's what I would think.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Bob. I appreciate you having being on here for Hard Truths #2. You were a great guest here today. You went through some awesome science. I think you blew a lot of people's minds. So I would just close it out by asking you, go ahead and plug, whatever you want to plug here at this point. Shout out anyone you want to shout out. This is your opportunity. Go ahead. Thanks a lot, Bob.
Okay, well, I want to thank all of the people that the Martin Fleischmann Memorial at quantumheat.org over the years. You can on the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, and you can also see my own personal write on remoteview.it, and that is the tagline on that is Back to the Future, Insight and Critical Fiction. And I would also like to thank the late Neil Crichton Gold, who came up with, who was confident enough in the experiment I suggested and produced incredible experiments. And also here in recent years, wonderful colleague Alan Goldwater in California, without which his SEM I wouldn't have been able to understand many researchers that have shared their information with us over the year. David Boutlier, who produced some of the fantastic coherent traveling waves and allow us to decode this thing that I'm talking about, how they project in front of them that is able to affect like objects. I'd also like to thank the sadly departed earlier this year, Matsumoto. We printed this book, Steps to the Discovery of Electronuclear Collapse. I had everyone get a copy. We make 2 cents on this in royalties, 2 cents. If you want to donate to the project, every video it has ways in which you can donate project underneath it. Everyone that's worked with the project has done it essentially on their own resources basis. They've often given up jobs or had no other income at other times and stuff. But for me, this is the great, since the early 2000s, the God's toolbox. I say that little g because there are people out there that have stolen the God's glory, and they are taken from themselves, and they are using. And the other word can be used is just everything you can that you can do. I can't watch a super because everything is possible. In instantaneous cloning, teleportation, every single thing is possible, and it's you completely change your framework of reality when you get this, and so that it is based on the geometry. Every single class building, ancient world through to the Greek Roman architecture, and every derivative of that, and obviously the Christian church is just a manifestation of this. The Great Pyramid of Egypt, all of these things, they are based on this technology. And if you want to understand a little fragment of that, go to the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project YouTube channel and follow every presentation that starts with the phrase O-D. You can search O-D. It's spanning 6 years. You can follow my personal journey, unredacted, even the stuff they get wrong, the experiment, the live SEM session, everything that explored this thing. I want to thank the community that have been with it whilst I was in Stode, essentially past 6 years, trying to get stuff out of the door so it cannot be undone. If anyone else has a terabyte out there and can download 4K downloader, I'd be happy for you to clone the channel. If you want to use any single piece of material that is published on the MFMP in video form, in image form, or in on the Any please do so. Obviously, crediting project and battling. But we are at the dawn of new dawn of an older, and to be back. This is a species inheritance built in the image of the technology that drives this. But we shouldn't let those that want to look over us and hold dominion to use this to control both our reality, our perceptions of what is what is right and just, and what literally control our minds, which is something you do with it as well. So on that level, you do not need to fear nuclear weapons. You do to fear them at all. It's a fraud, because they can make disappear from the sky. They can make them disappear from the sky. Your money is being taken out of pockets for things that are not real things. And there needs to be some coming together of nations to recognize that this is a real possibility. The immense threat it could present on a completely disappearing state level, but also the fact we are being lied to. We have the ability to convert matter directly into energy. We travel without all of those tedious time and nonsense. And this planet with energy could support 10, 20, 100 times its current population without having another rainforest, chop a load of tens of thousands of eagles, all kinds of technologies which are really, really rather redundant when you understand what is possible with this. I want to thank him for his incredible hard work on getting information out. Please share this very, very widely and learn. If you have any questions to remote-view.icu, ask them. I tried to do a regular blog post, video session on a Sunday if I can. This is in of that, but actually you can come along and ask questions. Obviously, helpful if you've done the homework. Some people have watched every video we've out over the last 11 years, and that's 4 months. There's people that just do the O-Day. I think you can probably do that with the reference article. And everything that I have published, it's links back mainstream scientific, and we have shown that you can conduct a 3-year-old in 7 shows this basic principle. $35 budget. Okay? It's literally Galileo asking the people calling him heretic to look through the telescope and see the planets as they are actually moving. We are at that point of absurdity in this revelation. So thank you very much, Ashton. Thank you for giving the forum other on there.
Yeah, and so I just want to say on behalf of MH370X, organization we set up to solve the videos, looking to advance technology, we want to give you an honorary membership into our organization, and we want to let you know, welcome to MH370X, sir. So that's it for today's podcast on hard truths, and let's be in touch. I'd like to talk to you again in the future, learn more about the science. Keep up the good work, sir, and thank you again. Have a great day.
Recording stopped.
Very
awesome. Yeah, if you want to
pull those on,
go
ahead. I'll soon.
Appreciate it. And yeah, I think that if you want to just put your Twitter in the chat or somewhere as well, I can tag that in the description when you do it. If you want to.
Sorry, the what?
Oh, like your Twitter where people can reach you. People are asking me about that. I stopped the recording on my side. Yeah. And then if you,
I've stopped streaming this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I just stopped my stream too. So just real quick as well, if you